New day, new goals, let's own it. And today we're going to be going into the story of none other than Bonin Bough. He has been one of the most awarded digital marketers and marketing executives literally in the world. By 24 years old, he was already one of the leading marketers working with billion-dollar brands, Oreo, Gatorade, Pepsi, Kraft. So we're gonna go into his whole story of how he became one of the leading marketing executives, how he's also become the host of Cleveland Hustles, and now the author of his new book, Text Me. And it's all about how he's become one of the most sought after mobile marketers, awards after awards in that space, and why he believes that right now is an unprecedented time, that if you want to create a movement and build an army, that you need to be using text messaging, you need to be using mobile marketing strategies. So we're gonna go into all of that and his whole story. I'm excited, let's get to it. Bonin Bough. If we can kind of kick it back a little bit and like, how did you become this renowned marketer? Like, where did it all begin? Where did you grow up? Like,
yeah, well, you know, so I'm born and raised in New York.
okay.
Born on 14th and 5th in a studio, a 5,000 square foot studio. My dad was a photographer, but he was a black photographer. He was a jazz musician in Chicago. Some stuff happened in Chicago. He left Chicago, got here, I think 34. Picked up a camera, learned how to do photography. Always creative. He was the first black photographer, one of the first black photographers that were doing special effects. And so at that time, you had to have multiple setups. And so there was all these different setups, and you would take a photograph, then you would take that same piece of film, put it in a different camera, and then shoot that, and take that back out and shoot that, and it was layered on top of it. Yeah. Or later on, this thing called pin register came out, so you would take 3 pieces of film and you would combine them in the dark room. So I grew up with dark rooms. You know, so I always grew up around. My mom, she ran the business, and so she was kind of the business logic end of it. And so she used to fuck with me all the time. Like, she would take 3,000-piece puzzles and throw them on the floor mixed up and be like, go.
Really?
Go. Figure it out. Lego was a big thing for me. So she was really about building kind of the math, science component of my life. My dad was kind of the creative musician component. They were both very creative. My mom was a photographer too. My dad ran a business. But I mean, that was kind of, and so then my parents separated and I moved uptown and I lived on 159th and Edgecombe. And this was, you know, in the 80s. This was in the middle of crack.
Right.
And, you know, abandoned blocks and crack files and, you know, I always got, my mom, you know, she was relentless though, talented and gifted schools and all that kind of stuff. My dad moved around a little bit. So it's interesting because in a lot of respects, statistically, I probably shouldn't be here, you know, but I am, and I think that is testament. My parents ended up moving back together in Staten Island, where I went to high school, where I ended up going out to high school. So, you know, but I think it was their determination to create, you know, somebody who had a different point of view on the world. It's interesting because as I look, the Intrepid is over there, and I was a young astronaut on the Intrepid when I was 11 years old. So it's interesting being here. Yeah. And, you know, so math and science, yeah. So I was a programmer. My mom got me. Well, my dad bought me my first computer, which was a Commodore 64. And I used that for years. And then my mom bought me the first Mac 512K. And so I had the first Mac. That's where I learned how to program. There was this thing called Sheets that you could program. And then I went on from there, learning on my own. And
Did you teach yourself how to program?
I taught myself a lot from basic, just reading books. And then I started taking computer classes in about 7th grade, maybe sixth or 7th grade, programming. So I learned how to program C and Pascal, and so I was a programmer, and then I graduate high school and I go to college, and in college I opened up a web company with my college roommate, Jeremiah, who's still my business partner to this day.
Oh, wow.
And we did the first Jordache website. I can still hear it, the Jordache look. It was crazy. It was so early days that we created these 3D spitting things where you could change the color of the jeans and look at the jeans, but it took so long to render that we had to create loading games. So you could play the game while the shit loaded. So bevel buttons and shit. It was crazy. We did the first Soccer Hall of Fame website. So we did that and graduate. We kind of sell the company. We sell it. We don't really make a lot of money. I was a physics and political science major. Originally, I thought I was going to do engineering law. I fell in love with political philosophy, was coming to do a graduate program in political philosophy. But that summer, we wanted to freelance work. So I freelance worked. And it was the internet. And so I was freelance programming for like Razorfish and Proxycom, and it was the internet days. And so then I remember I went to this party, the internet party, and it was like vodka fountains and shrimp boats. And I was like, I'm doing this thing right here for a little bit. So I pushed back. And I ended up being lucky. I landed at a family-owned, the largest independent PR agency at the time, a company called Reuterfin. I was, again, a freelance programmer. They brought this guy, Scott Schneider, in from RGA. He came in, he was like, you're a horrible programmer. You want to help me co-found the digital department, but you can't do programming, you got to do strategy. So I became an information architect, which is now a user experience designer. Strategy and architecture is what I ran. And so we co-founded that practice, and we grew that for about 7 years. He never wanted to travel because he had young kids at home. So I traveled. I opened up San Francisco at a real young age. I opened up San Francisco. I opened up Europe, Asia. I would pitch all the businesses because he didn't travel, so I would travel around the world, pitch, and I was building a strategy and architecture.
What was it specifically you were doing for these companies? Was it like what is UX today?
Well, we were building full-on websites. We were a full dev shop. We were a full-on dev shop. We were competitive with RGA, so we would build there was a run where we pretty much built, I would say, the top 5 pharmaceutical companies in the world. We built their global intranets across the globe, 22 languages, 19 countries, like big development stuff.
One of the things that I absolutely am astonished about Bonin is, it's not that he made the 40 under 40 list by Fortune, or he made the Adweek 50, or he's been also noted as one of the most creative people in the world. It's the fact that he talks about that when he was young, that he always lived up to expectations. In fact, he's one of the youngest executives to ever get into a Fortune 50 company in regards to digital media and marketing. And he did that by saying that he was this ferocious learner. He never stopped learning. So we're gonna get into what it was like to be one of the youngest marketing executives, literally for a Fortune 50 company, and how he handled himself in those boardrooms. What made him live up to those expectations?
What happened was, we came in right when the bubble burst, and everybody, all the big shops, March 1st, all these guys went out of business, and we collected a ton of talent from RGA and stuff like that, and just built a real kick-ass team. And so we were taking business, Ford Motor Credit, Novartis, like big, huge accounts, man.
And how were you always good at like those are, you're saying it like it's just like you're like killing it, but like
I used to have to lie about my age.
How did you sit? That's what I'm saying. Like, you're a young dude traveling the world, sitting in the room with freaking billion-dollar companies. Like, how are you closing these deals?
I used to have, first of all, I lied about my age because I was like 23, 24. The crazy thing is I also was teaching at NYU at like 24 in the graduate program. And so there was a lot, when I think back to it, it was a lot. You know what it really was? It was always, what I've learned now is that I've always been good at being where the puck is going. You know what I mean? So there was nobody who knew digital better than me. I was from the ground floor. There was nobody else better in digital.
Yeah,
now, I didn't know how to close business, but I started when digital started. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I try to get as close to the beginning of stuff, so there can't be a better expert in the room than me. You know what I mean? And so innovation has also been a lifeblood of me. So there was not, yes, I was young, but everybody was young in the space for the most part. But there was nobody else who knew the stuff. Yeah. So it was us. So Societe Generale, they fly me out to, this is my first business trip. We have to go present the whole thing. They had a huge global offsite in Malaga, Spain. So I get to Malaga, Spain. I stay there for a week, dude. I was like, I love business travel, it's amazing. A week later, I had to go on another business trip for Ford Motor Credit. It was in Dearborn, Michigan. I was like, business travel sucks. So I think if there's any wisdom that I would take out of that or thought, it's just that I think we put a lot of limiting factors on us. And actually Tony Robbins talks about this. I never believed that I was too young. I was as capable as anybody else in the room. Yeah, maybe I didn't have all the years of experience, but you know what? The thing that I knew it inside and out, and I was relentless. And you know, I still to this day, and I say that as a big piece of advice, which is I am so voracious about learning. Like people are like, oh, you love to talk, you're a great speaker. I love to talk, I'm a great speaker, but as a result of that, it's created a utility that I have that nobody else has, right? So I can go on stage and speak, the crowd loves it, I get off stage and I stand there and I talk to a line of 70, 80 people. Everybody's telling me their ideas, what they think is coming down. So literally it's education right there, boom, nonstop, bang, 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 bang. What's a good idea? I can see trends. And so for me, that's been like a huge, always trying to understand where the world is going and be there.
So as a young visionary myself, I really admire Bonin because he's constantly learning about where the world is going so that he can position himself. And that's become his expertise. You know, companies hire him specifically to just be able to tell them how to be able to get an edge in the market. He calls himself a transformative activator. So what that really means is he figures out how to activate transformation within a company. And he does that probably the best way that you ever can within any company, which is by motivating the fuck out of people.
I read something really early in 1999 in Harvard Business Review. So I have every single Harvard Business Review, physical magazine, every single one from 1999 all the way until now. Every single one. That became my business school, dude. Like I read every single one. I would underline, highlight, strategy in business, strategy, architecture, bubble mapping. Like this became my graduate school, right?
Wow.
And because of this one quote I read, and I first saw it on The Office, and the CEO or the creative director of Reuter Finn, Michael Schubert, who's a good friend, I'm seeing him tomorrow. It said, the mark of a great number one is where their number two goes to lead. Basically, if you really consider yourself a leader, and it's what you do, leaders make leaders. Like if you're really a great leader, it means that you make even better leaders than you. And so every day I've lived my life, which how do I give back? How do I encourage people? How do I inspire people to be better than what they thought they could be and better than I think I am? You know what I mean? Like how do I do that? And if you look at the people who have worked for me across my career, the head of BuzzFeed, you know, Merck, and I have a good track record. I'm very proud of that, but I give so much back. And even so, I just did a book signing at Traffic and Conversion, Content Marketer Summit. And there was a line, we had 150 books. And I literally wrote, so first of all, I ask everybody, just tell me what you're working on, and I write a personalized inscription, really like try to think about something that it'll be memorable, funny, And I'm just so thankful that people are even there talking to me, you know? So I just always try to give back. But to go back, so Reuter Finn, and you know, I talk a lot about, so Reuter Finn.
Talk to, so for people who don't know Reuter Finn.
Reuter Finn at the time was the largest independent PR agency in the world. They were neck and neck with Edelman. Edelman has kind of passed them now. But what was interesting about Reuter Finn was they were in a thing called, they really did a lot of executive reputation work. And so I watched them take a guy, I'll leave the name out, but he was a director at a large pharmaceutical company. I watched them take him in the 8 years that I was there from director level to CEO. And the reason why, I mean, you have to be smart and talented, but they also manage his communications, both his internal and his external communications. So one of the things I learned at Reuter Finn was, how do you begin to really, and people, you know, I teach this in Brand You, in our Brand You course, how do you manage, brands manage their reputation, individuals have to manage their reputation too. A lot of this is also about being able to position what your capability or what you're capable of in the world so that people can understand it, digest it, and then actually want to work with it. And a lot of people don't really think about how deliberate, I mean, many CEOs, you know, they have people who are dressing them. If you look, even somebody like Jobs, who probably didn't have somebody dressing him, but he had an outfit, a uniform. And it was, you know, and that's very deliberate, very deliberate. And so, you know, people don't realize that it's that combination of making sure that you're deliberate about how you talk to people, how you communicate to people, and also how you communicate to the outside world. And basically you are a brand in many respects.
Yes.
And that's what we do at Brand You, even down to the point where we say, okay, what's your defining statement? How do we then create platforms for you? And what people don't see is that behind the curtains of many of these top CEOs and execs are people actually managing their reputation for them, planning all of those pieces. Here's the statement. So like we say, I got to think back, I'm a transformative activator, right? So I activate transformation. And then I have platforms that I operate on. So, let's just say digital fitness one. How are you then taking actions and doing things that are showcasing that you actually can drive digital fitness? So we launch courses, we launch, like stuff. How does everything ladder up? The work that you do, if you really look at the work that I do, so I talent. So I've been working with a company which shall remain nameless for now, but where I moved, 41 of their marketers in a rotational marketing department, where we're now moving from place to place to learn the immersion of skills, really investing in talent. So how do you make sure that your actions line up to, which means that you have to be really honest. Who are you? Like I used to be like, I want to be an operator. The reality is that I'm not a traditional operator. I don't walk around with a clipboard. That's not my game.
Yeah.
And that's not my superpower. My superpower lies, yes, I'm an activator. I activate the fuck out of people and ideas and concepts, and then I move on and I keep it moving. That's what I do, and that's how I'm able to span a lot of things. So I think it starts with being true to yourself and then bringing that all the way down, because if you're true with yourself, then those are the actions, and then it's going to be who you are. Yeah. And so what you say becomes who you really are as well.
I learned that from some of the greatest founders that I've been able to network with, and it's like they honestly have figured out specifically what do you truly want to do, because you're only going to get as big as the leaders that you create, the team that you surround yourself with, the talent you surround yourself with. Just find what is that lane, and you don't necessarily need to be the CEO or whatever the title. Fuck titles, right? Figure out what is it that you want to do. What is it that you want to do? What are you great at? What are the skill sets that you can really double down on that's really going to help move that needle with your team for your business? And I feel like a lot of millennials out there right now haven't figured that out, or haven't asked that question, haven't really thought through who they are, what their brand is, but more importantly,
what's their superpower?
What's their superpower? What's your superpower?
The biggest advice I can give, I think, to entrepreneurs, even less about the brand, is you gotta find a way to surround yourself with people who have already done it. So I think in all the pieces that you need, is that the quickest shortcut is to find people who have already done that. A lot of the things that you're trying to do. Right. So it might not be, if you want to launch a beverage, I took these beverage guys, I said, this is great, and I can sit down with your brand, but I'm on the board of the largest immersion beverage incubator in the world, and you know what I can do? I can lift you up and take you to meet them, and by the way, they can get you national distribution. That's the fucking shortcut, dude. That's the cheat codes.
All right, so I hope you guys took a lot from this episode. Bonin is definitely one of the most leading experts when it comes to digital media and marketing, and at the end of the day, truly marketing is about understanding people, and that's part of being a leader. Learning what is going to activate people. So hopefully you took some great takeaways. Make sure to subscribe, and comment. Let us know what you think about season 3. Let me know if there's new people that you want to bring onto the show. But I'm excited. Thank you for being a part of the Leaders Create Leaders community. I love y'all. It's your boy, G. Until next episode. Peace.
Well, it's true.